Hello, my name is Kathleen Short and I'm a wood turner. Welcome to my shop. It's a beautiful day outside, but we're going to stay inside and turn a wood platter. We're going to be using this figured maple blank. It is 2 inches thick, 10 inches across. So using the blank, we're going to attach it to the lathe using the screw chuck, but we're not going to make a foot like we did with the last maple bowl, a foot that sticks out like this where the jaws of the chuck will grasp it. We're going to do a recess. So the recess will look like this. And this is the first bowl I ever turned back in 2004. It's what started my love of wood turning. So the recess on the bottom allows us to put the jaws of the chuck in and expand them, and it'll hold the piece while we work the outside and the inside, saving us from turning it around and having to remove the foot. So it saves us a step. These are the tools that I'll be using. I have 2 bowl gouges, my sanding system, a one-way chuck with large jaws. It previously had the smaller jaws when I was making tool handles for a friend using just a 1 inch by 1 inch blank. And these are 2 scrapers that I may use to help finish the outside and the inside of the bowl. We now have the blank mounted on the lathe using a screw chuck. We're going to be working on the bottom of the bowl. I've made some marks to guide me in regards to how far I'm going to go in for the side of the bowl, where the foot is going to be, and where I'm going to remove the bulk of it so that I can fit the jaws of my chuck to hold it back on the lathe. So I'd like to show you, there's a little bit of spalting, and spalting is when the wood starts to rot a little bit, and we also have a little bit of burl, so it's hopefully going to be a beautiful piece. This is my drill. I use it to sand. I have an attachment that I bought that came with the sanding discs that I have. They're 2-inch sanding disc. They start at 80 grit. 80 grit is the roughest grit that I use. It takes out the bulk of the wood. It removes tear out and all the scratches and gives it the shape I want. And then when I'm done with 80 grit, I will move up by half of that. So I will go to 120 and then I will do 180 and 320. I do have grits that are in between, depending if I want to take out or smooth the piece a little differently. You shouldn't cheap out on your sanding paper. Get a good quality. You're going to make the job much easier. And once you've used the sanding discs and it's all blocked with a bit of sawdust, you can clean it once with this rubber cleaning tool. It removes a lot of the sawdust that's attached to your disc, and then you can use it one more time. Once you finish with one grit, it's always good to clear off the sawdust from the previous grit before you start your new one. I finished sanding the bottom of the bowl. It's a smooth finish to 400. The 320 disc kept flying off, and I'm now going to remove it from the screw chuck, and we're going to place it, I'm going to place it on the one-way chuck with the extended jaws. So that's the profile. That's what it looks like at the moment. 21. You know how they say you should measure twice and cut once? I did not do that. So the inside of my bowl is actually too small for my chuck. So I'm just gonna go in and adjust it, make it a little bit wider. We have our chuck in place. The bowl just fits on the outside of the jaws. Just gonna extend the jaws and make sure it's nice and tight. Spin it half turn and tighten it again. And now we're ready to remove the inside of our platter. Once the inside of the bowl is starting to take shape, I have my calipers and I go in and I make sure that the measurement from the rim to as close to the bottom as possible is the same thickness. When I start turning my bowls, I use my big bowl gouge. It removes a lot more wood than the smaller ones and it makes the job of getting the shape done much quicker. Once I've done that, I use my smaller bowl gouge. And this one has the same angle cut. It's a 45-degree angle, but because it's smaller, I can do finer details. Once the bowl is mostly finished on the inside and the inside is still a little rough, I like to use my scraper. So this is the inside bowl scraper. That's going to make the inside of the bowl much nicer. The inside of the bowl is roughly turned. We have a few tear outs. So tear outs is when the fiber just pulls back and isn't as smooth as some of the other parts of the piece. We're going to sand those down and finish off the bowl. And here is the turned and sanded platter. It's still on the chuck, but I'm going to remove it, oil it, and sign it. The platter does have a little bit of burr left in the rim, which I'm glad I was able to keep. And down at the bottom, there's a little bit of spalting in this area. Once the piece is oiled, all of those accent marks will brighten up the piece and make it much more interesting. Here is the first piece of 2021, the figured maple platter. I've signed the back or the bottom, and I call it a platter because the edges extend out versus turning in, and it is finished with so far one coat of tung oil. I don't know if you can see it. There's a little bit of what they call chatoyance, which is like cat's eye, depending on the reflection. It has a really, really nice sheen and vibrancy to it. If you look here, the light is reflected differently. And that's sometimes caused by stress when the tree was growing. So you don't really want to stress your trees, but actually they make beautiful wood.